Here are my top 3 pieces of advice that I would give my 20-year-old version of me. If someone would have told me these 3 things back then, my life would have had a majorly different trajectory. So if you've listened to any of my content on YouTube and you resonate with it, these 3 pieces of advice might also help you. So number 1, you are allowed to put up boundaries and absolutely should do so. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to cut people out of your life if you know they're not healthy for you. Listen to that voice deep within you. Listen to that gut reaction, that intuition, because it's always right. I used to think that the people that were in my life just kind of had a right to be there. I was never taught boundaries. I was never taught that I could kick someone out of my life when I knew they weren't good for me, because I grew up in a household where my dad did not treat my mom that great, but she stayed with him for a very long time. So me observing their relationship, that all felt normal to me. But that's because she was also never taught boundaries. So put those boundaries up, stay true to your boundaries, and don't let others trample on them. But if they do, or if they try to trample on them, that's a very clear sign that they don't respect you. And I guess that kind of makes it easy for you to remove them. If they trample your boundaries, it's just like it's a no-brainer, right? You are the only gatekeeper to yourself. You are the only gatekeeper to your energy. You are your protector. So it's absolutely okay for you to remove or limit the access that people have to you. That was one that took me years. The first time I ever put up a boundary, other than leaving a relationship where I was being abused, but the first time I ever put up a boundary where I realized I did that was when I was I think I was probably 29 years old. And that's really late for someone to be learning about boundaries. But the first time I blocked somebody on Facebook because of how they were talking to me, I had enough. I was like, I don't need to hear this. This is bullshit. And I told him that, and then I blocked him. And that was so empowering. Just knowing that I got rid of that. I don't have to deal with that immature stress. I don't have to deal with that. That's not how I want to be treated. That's not how I deserve to be treated. And so I blocked him out of my life. And that was so empowering. So definitely figure out where your boundaries need to be. Put up those boundaries and don't waver on them. You are allowed to have boundaries, and you should have boundaries. Everybody should have healthy boundaries. So that's number 1. Number 2, everything you need and are seeking in others, in a partner, you already are and have that within yourself. So turn inward. If you are young and you're looking for a partner and you're trying to find a boyfriend, or you always feel like you need or want to have one, but maybe your boyfriends or the people that you're attracting aren't exactly ideal. Maybe they're not like your perfect match. It's not like a blissful experience. If that's your experience, turn inward. Give yourself the kind of love that you are seeking. Give yourself the validation that you want from others. That is a huge one. Give yourself the validation that you want to find from others. And that's how you will attract a good, healthy partner. Become what you want, and you will attract that. Stop chasing. Absolutely stop chasing. Become that, what you want, and you will attract that to you. But definitely we need to love ourselves first. So if you're out there searching and wanting and feeling like you need someone, what you probably really need is to stop and start giving yourself that love. Start learning how to love yourself, every part of yourself. If there's something that you dislike about yourself, write all those things down and then try to figure out ways to start accepting that about you and loving that about you. If it's physical attributes, this is perfect. If it's a personality trait, or if it's maybe you feel codependent and you don't like that, then work on undoing the codependency by enhancing your relationship with yourself. That's going to automatically help clear out codependency, because when you love and you trust yourself, you don't need someone else, right? You feel good and solid by yourself. Therefore, the codependency will just naturally evaporate when you love and trust yourself. So put all that energy into yourself first. And once you feel whole and healthy and good, and you feel like you are okay on your own and you love your own company, that's when the other partner might come in. So stop chasing, start becoming, and then that will be attracted back to you. And number 3, you are worthy of all of your dreams coming true. You are worthy of following your passions, the things that light you on fire. You should go for that. You should pursue that. Never, ever stop that. You were worthy when you were born, and that worthiness never goes away. So for me, art is my passion. I love art. I started drawing when I was like in 7th grade, and it just exploded and became an addiction, and just everything art related, creating, making things. That is me. That is literally my biggest passion and my biggest, that's who I am. That is my identity. In a very deep rooted way. That wasn't something that I chose. It just is me. But when I was growing up, my parents were never rich. We always struggled financially, but both of them, like both of my parents and both of their lineage, really struggled with scarcity and fear and worry. And so one of my parents told me a couple times, after I sat down and spent 8 hours solid, I didn't even get up to pee. I sat down for 8 hours and I was drawing out this drawing that I had to do for my art class. I spent 8 hours putting my heart and soul into it, and I really loved how it turned out. Right after finishing this, when I was high on that like endorphin of creation and I was in my flow, one of my parents just came over and told me, well, just remember the starving artist. And it's really, that seems like maybe like an innocent statement to say, the starving artist has been something that, it's a phrase used so often. But up until that point, I had never viewed myself as a starving artist. I had never viewed my talent and my passion as something that wouldn't work. Like, I 100% believed in me and my talent before my parent planted that seed. Once that seed was planted, oh my God. And I did not realize the effect of this until years and years and years and years later. So this was when I was like in college. This was like my first year of college, right out of high school. So I was like 19 years old. I had won the art award in high school. I took every art class they had. The art was that's what I was going to go for. That's what I was going to pursue for my career. My dream college was the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and I really wanted to pursue it. But the moment my mom put that little seed of doubt in my mind, as if like, if I pursue my art, I'm going to starve. I'm not going to be able to financially make it. I'm going to be broke. It was amazing how that just derailed everything I started doing in life. Like, I did not go and pursue my art degree in San Francisco at my dream college. Instead, I played it safe. I went to community college and took art classes there, but then lost my funding and then couldn't go back and continue. And then my entire, 20s were spent trying to find a job that I could enjoy and that I could see myself doing forever, when nothing nothing felt like I could do it forever besides art. Art was the only thing that I knew for a fact I could do that forever and never get sick of it. Every other career option, when I would think it through, I'd be like, well, I could maybe do that. That sounds a little interesting. I could try to pursue that. But then when I thought about like, okay, if I go to school and I get I'm in the United States, so we pay for college. It's not free. You come out of college with debt. And when I would go through the mental rehearsal or mental, checklist of like, okay, I could go to college, I could get a job in that. But if I tried seeing myself doing that kind of work, any kind of normal, typical job for over like a few years, it literally just made my heart sink to the floor. And like, I was like, I'd rather just shoot myself in the face. Like, why I could never do that forever. So this was a huge one. And I'm still trying to rewire that in my brain, because my art, I never stopped creating. However, it was always a side business. It was always a side thing. Every now and then whenever I would move, every time I moved, luckily, like, I would take whatever art form I was working on at the time. A lot of it was jewelry at this point. A lot of my moves happened when I was creating jewelry. So every time I moved and was looking for another normal job, I would dive into my art. I would dive into making a bunch of pieces, and I would cold call boutiques, and I would go in and I would sell my jewelry, and that paid my bills. Every single move I ever had, I was okay because my art kept me afloat. My art paid my bills during that transition of trying to find a job, but I could never get it to a point where it was my sole solid income. And I truly believe that it was because of that little seed planted. So if you're an artist, if you're someone who has a passion, doesn't matter what the passion is, if you know that you're passionate about something and you know that like you absolutely want to do this thing, you might also have people in your life and family members, or like growing up, you might have people, the naysayers, the people who, their advice is probably intended to help you, but it's not going to help you if they plant doubt in your mind when you beforehand were 100% confident in your passion and you knew you needed to go for it. You needed to do this because this is what you're passionate about, and you got to do what you're passionate about, right? Or else you're going to end up in a job or a career where you hate your life like so many other people. So many people are held back by the little seeds that other people plant about their passions and goals and like dreams. So another piece of advice, you are worthy of your dreams. You are worthy of pursuing your passions. You're worthy of making that your sole income, and you are capable of doing it, and you have always been capable of doing it. And if you're having trouble, if this is an area that you're trying to pursue it, but you just can never make it work, firstly, I would advise to go back and was there any point in time where someone said something or made a comment or planted a little seed of doubt? Was there any time where that happened? Can you remember a time where that happened? And if you can remember a time where that happened, that's great, because now what you can do is you can relive that experience. You can sit quietly with yourself, visualize your now self going back to that particular time where someone planted that seed, and you can rewrite that narrative. Okay? We always think that like what's in the past is in the past. It's already done. It's done its damage. You can't fix it. But that's not true. When I started working with my going and doing like inner child work, basically visualizing myself going back to childhood moments or situations and taking and being my now self. So my adult self is in this situation with my child self, and I'm looking. So you want to sit with yourself visualize yourself going back into the situation. Pay attention and look and see like what happened in that situation. Become very clear about what had happened and maybe the seed that they planted. But then you can always just say, thank you for trying to help me, to the person who planted that seed, because more than likely they didn't plant it in a malicious way. Or if they were malicious about it, then maybe don't say thank you, but turn to your little self and tell your little self what you would have rather heard. Give yourself a different seed. Plant a different seed. You can course correct this. You can rewire your brain in a different way so that you believe the thing that you really want to believe and that you know is true for you. So going back and doing, these types of inner child work and situations and visualizations can really help to uproot that seed that was planted and to start rewiring something new so that you can actually hopefully pursue your passion and finally make break past the glass ceilings that you had been encountering before. So you're worthy of it. And if you need to do a little rewiring, go do the rewiring and go pursue that passion. So those are my 3 biggest pieces of advice that if I could go back to my 20-year-old self, I would definitely have that conversation. Let me know in the comments, is there something, are you in your 30s, 40s, maybe you're in your 60s or 70s, and what kind of advice do you have for your 20-year-old self? I would love to hear it. Put it in the comments. Let's start an advice thread. Anybody who's coming in that might be young and in their 20s, maybe you just graduated high school and maybe you're feeling a little lost in the world and the way that the generations before you went about life after high school, that is maybe not exactly the right path for you because of the way that the world is right now, the way that everything's shifting and changing. So what kind of advice would you give your younger self? I would love for people to just start commenting all the advice, and then people who are coming in and listening to this video and they're younger, they can read all this advice and maybe there's going to be something in this that's going to really hit home for somebody, and you're going to help this person, you're going to help people move past the biggest challenges that you had in your life. So let's start that thread in the comments. Definitely subscribe if you want to hear more from my channel. I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about how we can rewire our brain and live our best life. So subscribe if that's your vibe, and I will see you on the next podcast.